Hey guys, today in this video we're going to be going over the 4 representations for a situation. So remember we have the equation, a table, a graph, and then in this one we're doing a word problem instead of like the tile pattern that we've been talking about. So this one is going to be an actual word problem. So most of us did this in class together, so I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly. It's also pretty basic. So our situation here is what we've been given, and we need to figure out our equation, the table, and the graph. Okay, so our scenario is Pedro was given $10 on Monday. He is spending $2 per day. So yes, it's $2 per day, but we have to think about what the word spending means. Okay, that means that his balance, his amount of money is going down $2 per day. So I think the table is probably the easiest to fill out here. So I know that I'm given $10. So my starting point, 0 days later, he has $10. But now every day after that, he's spending $2. So after the first day, his total would be $8. After another day, it'd be 6, then 4, then 2. Okay, notice how we're going down 2 each time. All right, so this tells us that our growth is -2. All right, and if we think about the 2 things that we need for an equation, remember our format is y equals mx plus b, and this m right here is going to be our growth. So now I know that that's going to be -2. So my equation is going to be y equals -2x, but now I need to find b. And b is just my y-intercept, also known as my starting point. Okay, so in this one, we are starting with $10. Remember, our y-intercept is whatever y is when x is 0. So if I have a table, I just have to figure out where x is 0 and then find that y value. So in this case, it is +10, which makes my equation y equals -2x plus 10. All right, and now that we have the equation, our graph is going to be relatively easy. So we'll start with our y-intercept. So a y-intercept tells me that on this line, on this axis, on my y-axis, I know that my line for this equation is going to go through +10 on my y-axis. So if I count up to 10, so there's 3, 6, 9, 10, I know that my line is crossing through right there. So that's one point where I know where my line is. Now my growth is -2. So every time my x is going up, meaning I'm counting up a day, my balance is going down 2. So if I go forward 1 day, so right here was on my x-axis, here is day 0. So then here would be day 1. And I know that day 1 is 2 less than day 0. So I'm going to go down 2. And now I have 2 points to be able to create my line. And of course, I didn't grab a ruler, so give me 1 second. I'm not stopping the video. All right, so now I have my 2 points and I can create my line. Okay, remember, or make sure it goes all the way through your graph, the grid, and has arrows on the end because these lines never stop, they keep going. All right, so that's our first scenario. That one was pretty easy. So let's move on to scenario 2, the one that is on the back of that front page. All right, so this one is a little bit more complicated because it's written in a different order, but that just means that I need to put it in the right order. So if you see here, my term with the x in it is second. For my y equals mx plus b, excuse me, mx plus b, I need to have that x term in the front. So I can just rearrange these, but I have to be careful to keep the sign, okay? This is not positive 4x. This is negative 4x. And this right here is positive 20. So I need to make sure that they keep their signs when I rewrite the equation. So I have y equals negative 4x plus 20. So if I break down this equation, This tells me that my growth is -4. It also tells me that my y-intercept, or starting point, is at 20. All right, so if I go to my table, I know that when x is 0, y needs to be 20 because that's my y-intercept. All right, and I know that I'm going down by 4 each time. So if at 0, it is 20, and it looks like if I read this problem, it looks like we're decreasing per hour. Okay, so that means I am decreasing 4 degrees per hour. The temperature at dawn, that's my starting point, was 20 degrees. Okay, so my starting point is at 20, and I'm going down 4 degrees per hour. So that means 1 hour later, careful, we got to skip this one for right now because this is saying when y is 0, when I don't know what x is. So let's skip down here to this x equals 1. So 1 hour later, it's decreasing 4 degrees. So that means it will be 16. Another hour later, it's going to decrease another 4, which means it's at 12. And then 1 more hour, it's decreasing another 4 degrees, which means it is at 8. Okay, so those are my missing y values, but now it's time to find my missing x values. So on these two, instead of knowing what x is and finding y, it's the opposite. I know what y is, but I need to find x. So I'm going to use this equation and put those two values in for y to figure out what x is. So when y is 0, I have 0 equals -4x plus 20. Okay, I'm using this equation right here. I just substituted my known y value for y. So I have 0 equals -4x plus 20. Now I just have to solve this. So I've got my x's on one side, but I need to get rid of this plus 20. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. Those cancel out. On the left, I have -20, and on the right, I have -4x. My final step is just to divide both sides by -4, and I get x equals 5. Okay, so 5 hours after dawn, the temperature will be 0 degrees. All right, now I need to do the same thing. I'm trying to figure out the number of hours, because remember, x is hours and y is temperature. So I'm trying to find how many hours after dawn the temperature will be 10 degrees. So I'm going to do the same thing and put 10 in for y. So I have 10 equals -4x plus 20. Again, I have my x's alone, but I need to get rid of this plus 20. So I will subtract 20 from both sides. Over here, I'll get -10 is equal to -4x on the right. Last step is to divide by -4, and I get x equals 2.5. So 2.5 hours after dawn, the temperature will be 10 degrees. All right, and then our last step for this relationship is to create the graph. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with my y-intercept. So on my y-axis, I'm going to have to count up to 20. And I already know that that's not going to fit because I only have about 10 lines. So instead, on my y, I'm going to count by 2s. So there would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. Okay, so my y-intercept is 20, so I know that my line is crossing this point right here. So I know where my line is, right there. When x is 0, I know where my line is. And then I know that as my hours increase, my temperature is decreasing by 4 degrees. So as I go forward 1 hour, my temperature is dropping 4 degrees. But since we're counting by 2s here, I got to be careful. So that means I'm going down 4 degrees. That's where my next point will be. And now I can create my line. Okay, again, make sure it goes through the whole page. Add your arrows, and we're done. All right, I'm not 100% sure that this video is working, so I'm going to pause it here and do the next thing on a separate video just to make sure that this is all going okay.